playing a game. This is an online simulation that I would invite you to play and analyze as we are playing along. I would greatly appreciate if at least a couple of us can have our videos on, because that just helps me articulate better. That helps me connect the dots better. That sort of a visual feedback goes a long way in helping me teach. So if I could request some of us to turn on our videos, please, that would be really, really helpful. Anybody who can do that? Thanks, Sophia. Anshika, Yojin, Ishwarya, do you think you would be able to do it? Hi guys, can you hear me, Anshika? Okay, Anshika is in a train, that's all right. Yojin, how about you? And Ishwarya, how about you? Thanks a lot, Yojin. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. What about you?
I can barely hear you.
Yeah, I'm doing good.
Awesome. Ishwarya, how about yourself? Hello.
Hi. Am I audible?
Videos on, so if you can, please do turn on your video. Perfect. Ipsa, are you there? Hello.
Hi, yeah, I'm here.
Hi. Ipsa, if you could turn on your video, that would be really helpful.
Okay, just give me 1 second.
Sure. All right. Now, in the previous game theory class, we discussed as to how human beings, we are all, game playing creatures in many ways, which means that we are rational human beings, or, we operate under bounded rationality, but we all respond to incentives, both positive and negative. And we discussed as to how a lot of times we are susceptible to falling into really bad Nash equilibria, such as the prisoner's dilemma, and how falling into that bad Nash equilibrium or Nash equilibria, if there are multiple of them, really makes us, it really makes it difficult to, come at more equitable outcomes, come to more optimal outcomes. And a lot of the, conflicts, which are sort of frozen conflicts or conflicts which are, there for, sustaining for many, many years, many, many decades, they are happening because a lot of, the countries or a lot of social groups are just stuck in a really, really bad prisoner's dilemma. Okay, and that's also the reason why a lot of our policies, including sustainable development policies, fail, including why a lot of these public goods find free riders, and increasingly public goods are becoming either club goods or private goods. So we finally discussed that, game theory tells us that a policy which is written on paper can a lot of times just be ink on paper and not really be implemented very well on the ground. And in order to form policies which can be implemented on the ground as nicely as they are drafted on paper, what we need to do is we need to have a game theoretical mindset and think about the various games that people will play in response to those policies, so as to increase their own benefit and reduce their costs. Okay, so that's the sort of anticipation that we need. Now, today, what we are going to do is, last time we were playing much simpler games. We discussed about various strategies to break a bad Nash equilibrium. Those strategies were: number one, rewards and punishments, or carrots and sticks. Number two was playing infinite games. Hi, Sophia. Number three, this was about creating institutions, and creating institutions really meant that you need to have certain rules in place. You need to have, everybody needs to know those rules. And in addition to that, you need to have a lot of information symmetry, which means that we need to bridge information asymmetry to a great extent. And the final strategy that we discussed was that you make cooperation really, really lucrative. Now, while speaking that, I want to just double check for those who remember and attended the class, did we cover just 2 strategies, or were we able to cover all of the 4 strategies? Which means the strategy of institution building as well as the strategy of making cooperation really, really lucrative. So if we haven't covered that, I'll quickly cover that and then we jump into a game.
Yeah, we covered the first 2, and since
We covered
didn't
the
have
first.
much time, yeah,
Perfect. So we will be able to cover the next 2 strategies and then jump into our game. Let me give you a glimpse of the game that we have. It's called The Evolution of Trust, and this is really based on a book written by Robert Axelrod, who was a very renowned social scientist and game theorist. And this is a really fun sort of game where you don't have to do so many calculations. You will just place your bets on various players, and you will tell us as to whether your player will win a particular game or will lose a particular game. And we will figure out after the game is done as to whether your player won and why that player won or lost. Okay, so that's just a glimpse of it so that you have something to hang on to after a more theoretical discourse on the remaining 2 strategies. So, okay, just for a refresher, we played this game of apples, and we discussed as to, how people would, if there are 2 nations who are dividing these apples up, instead of just dividing these apples 2.5 equally, they would fall into a prisoner's dilemma where they would end up destroying one apple because of the distrust that they harbor for each other, because all of the talk that they do, all of the cooperative, when we played that game in the class, we realized that every time that I've played this game in the class, people come to start with a very cooperative outcome that we will divide this 2.5 with each other. But when I tell them that talk is cheap, and what if you are in a position where the other person defects on you, runs away with all of the 5 apples, you don't want to be in that position. And what if the other person is also thinking like that talk is cheap, we have shaken our hands, but once I go inside of the classroom where the apples are kept, what if the other person just runs away with all of the apples? The other person would not want to run and be in that situation. So eventually both the people would play hawk, which means the non-cooperative game. And in that fight, destroy one apple and end up with 2 each. Okay, so if you haven't gone through the whole of that logic, I encourage you to take a look at the recording of our lecture. That's the prisoner's dilemma that we discussed. We also discussed that prisoner's dilemma can be broken in some of the ways that I told you about. One was the carrot and stick, that people who are defecting, put a penalty on them and they will stop defecting. Another was to divide up the game into multiple rounds. Ideally, play infinite games, because once you have a sense of being in infinite games, cooperation emerges. Okay. The third strategy, which we did not discuss, is this. This is about creating institutions. So imagine that there is there's a common resource pool. Imagine that this is a pond of fishes. Okay, it has 100 fishes every week, and there are 5 households surrounding this pond. All right. Now, the thing with this fish population is that their reproductive cycle or their replenishment cycle is such that if at any given point of time the number of fishes in the pond go below 50 fishes, the pond loses its regenerative capacity, because you could say the population balance amongst the fishes, it gets disturbed. One reason or the other, the requirement is that in order for that cycle to go on, you need a minimum of 50 fishes in the pond. All right. That's also what happens with potable water or places which are dry now and which were not dry. Research tells us that in order to replenish those places, you need a certain minimum amount of water for that water cycle to be restored. So all of these cyclical stuff that we come across, they have similar replenishment or regenerative cycles. So let's say over here, the regenerative cycle is that every week you can fish in a manner that you don't go below 50 fishes. All right. Now, if there are 5 households around this pond, that means that every week each household can draw out just 10 fishes, right? Because it can't go below 50. All right. Now, let us say that is the case, but one fine day, a particular household, let's say this guy over here, says that I'm feeling a little extra hungry, or maybe I have some guests over. So I might just take out 11 fishes because what the government tells us is the number 50, but maybe it's not really 50. Maybe they've built in a buffer over there. Maybe we can go down to 40 and it should not matter. I'm just taking out one fish over here and nobody is looking, right? So let me just do that. And the moment that this person does this, and imagine if there's another person who says, okay, let me also take out 11 this week because, nobody is looking and I have guests at my place. You have suddenly at the end of the week, 48 fishes in the pond, which disturbs the replenishment cycle. And then week after week, you would have fewer and fewer fishes. And eventually you would have a pond with no fishes. So that's what happens when there are no rules, when there are no laws, and when there is no oversight. All right. People could be greedy, people could be careless, and for all of those reasons, these over exploitation of this particular resource can happen. Now, what if I do one thing? How do you solve this problem? What if I do one thing? Let me say that I will build a wooden plank over here. I would build a wooden station over here, and I would get this one guy from a nearby village to be the monitor over here, or I could either get one guy or I could get one member from each family, one member from each household to become a monitor over here, okay? And keep a whiteboard right here. And I will set up a rule which says that each and every household any household can only fish from this particular station. If you're fishing from anywhere else, it's illegal. And when you're fishing from here, we will record how many fishes are you drawing every week. Okay. So this guy over here who's standing as a monitor records and makes this information publicly available to everybody as to how much has each household fished in a particular week. Now, let's say one household fished 11 fishes in the week. So the next household might decide that, okay, I will fish 9 this week and this guy can compensate me in the next week. And if this guy doesn't compensate me, then I'm going to get all the households. If this guy is acting like a free rider, maybe just drawing out 11 fishes every week, we are all going to get together and put pressure on this guy. Okay. And that is how it becomes a self-governing sort of system. This sort of a system has 2 features. Number one is that there are rules, and that's why when you talk about any sort of global governance, whether it is with the United Nations or any sort of management of global commons, you have a rule-based order. We hear this word quite a lot when we talk about having a rule-based order. So what does a rule-based order do? A rule-based order sets in certain ground rules so that you can manage in a manner that you don't overexploit the existing resources, that you can manage the global commons, right? The other thing is that it creates information symmetry. It bridges information asymmetry because now this information is available for everybody to view. And that's again the reason why places like the World Bank or the UN are so obsessed with just making information public, of publishing all of these reports that they publish. Now, the thing is that this sort of a system works very well when you don't have an overarching police in place, such as the global system. UN does not have the power to enforce anything, or the World Bank or any of these global institutions, they don't have any sort of a sovereign power on enforcing their rules or guidelines on any of the nations which are present in the world. So in the absence of a police, in the absence of somebody who could do the carrot and stick strategy like we had in the first segment of strategies to break out of the Nash equilibrium, this particular strategy works very well, where just equal players are trying to moderate the behavior of all of the other players. So this is a good self-governance mechanism, creating institutions like these. Now, that is tremendous. By China, all of these things are rapidly, protected and contested, because that becomes extremely important. The third thing with institutions is that they become focal points. What do I mean by focal points? Let us say that there were two of these institutions present. Okay, so let's say that one institution was showing numbers like these: 10, 11, 10, 10, 10, or 10, 11, 10, 10, 9. Okay, and let us say China and Russia and some of these organizations together, they come up with their own set of recordings, and they are showing, let's say, 9, 8, 8, 9, 7. Okay, then there's a problem. You can only trust only one of them, right? Because the moment you have two institutions which are competing for trust, you will not be able to maintain the minimum level of the common resource pool. Okay. Imagine it like this: that my game theory professor, Professor Kaushik Basu, has written a book called The Republic of Beliefs, and I'm taking this example from that. That imagine you're on an airport, and in fact, these are experiments that people have tried. Okay. Whom do we have as the TA over here? Amatullah, are you there?
Yeah, which is there. Her screen just froze, so I'm recording, but she'll be around.
Okay. If we can just have the recording either
Yeah,
started
I'm
or stopped,
recording.
it disturbs my momentum.
Sorry.
Thank you. All right. So this is the third strategy, which is to build institutions. Okay, that's how you break out of non-cooperative games, right? The fourth strategy is making cooperation really lucrative. All right, and for this I need 2 volunteers very quickly. We will be able to finish this game off in 5 minutes, and then we jump onto the interesting one. Okay, Sophia is one volunteer. Who's the other? Oh, sorry, Ishwarya is one volunteer. Who's the other? You won't have to do much in this one. The other game is the more active one. This is just for storytelling. Okay, let me just take Yojin. You will be, yeah, perfect. So, Sophia, since you raised your hand first, I'll give you Ronald and I'll give Yojin Donald. So, Yojin, you're Donald. Sophia, you're Ronald. And now you're playing a game. And the game is wherever you read energy, that means a dollar, or that means, some sort of money that you have. Okay. Now, let us say you both are working professionals and you every year you owe 1 unit of energy or $1 out of your earnings to the government as tax. Okay. Now, this tax is given out as, this tax is further invested into either a common resource pool or a public good. All right. One feature of common resource pools and public goods is that it gives a positive rate of return on investment. So if you, because, it is overall, it has a lot of positive externalities, what we call in economics. So for example, if you're investing in education, you're not just investing in education, your healthcare numbers go up, your economy numbers go up, etc., your tech innovation numbers go up. So you are investing, let's say if each of you are nice, responsible citizens and you're giving the $1 due to you in taxes, you have 2 units of tax collection, $2 of taxes which are there with the government, and let's say you're the only 2 persons in this particular country. And let us say the rate of return on this investment in a public good or a common resource pool is 1.5 times. So for every $1 you put, you get $1.5. So if you put $2, you get $3. Okay. Now, when you get $3, eventually the benefits gets divided into equally into the both of you. It's a public good or it is a common resource pool, so the benefits are equally divided amongst everybody, right? So now you invested $1 and you got 1.5 each out of this, right? And that sounds like a fantastic investment. You have $1.5 each. But now the story starts changing. This is when you both are playing the cooperative game. But what if one of you decides to play the defect game, right? So let us say that Donald, being Donald, decides to not pay their share of taxes, okay, not pay his share of taxes. So only Ronald is paying $1. It's still being invested into a public good or a common resource pool. So it still gives you 1.5 times the return. So in total, the benefits available to the society are 1.5 units, which again get equally divided to everybody in the society. And we just have 2 people in the society over here. So you get about, so Ronald gave $1 and Ronald gets back $0.75, right? Donald gave $0. Donald is holding on to his $1 and still gets 0.75. So the game ends like this. Ronald invested 1 and ends up at 0.75. Donald did not invest anything, ends up at 1.75. This is when Donald defected. Now let us flip the situation. Let's say Ronald defected, the same thing. You have $1.5 available to the society. Donald gets 0.75. Ronald has his own $1, which he did not pay, and gets 0.75 as well. So the game ends like this, right? The last scenario is that they both defect. They both say, I'm going to hold on to my $1. Fuck, I don't care. Okay. So the game ends like this. You invest nothing in the common resource pool. Additional benefit, you receive nothing out of that. You had $1 and you're holding to your $1. Okay. Now, if you look at the Nash equilibrium in this game, this is the same game that I've depicted over here. The Nash equilibrium is our very old prisoner's dilemma over here. Because if you are here, again, remember the definition of Nash equilibrium, a set of strategies from which nobody would want to unilaterally deviate from. Okay. So which means that if you both are on defect, if I ask Ronald that, will you change your strategy from defect to cooperate, from up to down, while Donald stays on defect, Ronald would not want to do that because 1 is better than 0.75. Simply ask Ronald will keep defecting. Ronald is going to still defect. Would you want to do that? Ronald would not, because Ronald would not want to go from 1 to 0.75, which means defect is a Nash equilibrium. Nobody would want to unilaterally change their strategy. See that cooperate is not a Nash equilibrium over here, because if we are over here at 1.5, both of you, Ronald, Donald, and let's say if I give Ronald a chance that would you want to move from cooperate to defect, given that Donald will be stuck on cooperate. Okay, so would you want to move from here to here? Ronald would gladly do that because 1.75 is just better. Similarly, if I ask Donald that would you want to move unilaterally from cooperate to defect, given that Ronald will be stuck on cooperate, Donald would gladly do that because 1.75 is better than 1.5, right? Now, nothing new in this game. This is our age-old prisoner's dilemma. But I'm going to change one thing in a new version of this game and everything changes. Now, instead of the return of 1.5, I am going to change that return to 2.5 and everything remains the same in this particular game. Everything is same. Return, let's say I am investing in things, let's say it's through some policy, and this has great applications in renewable energy policy, etc. That if for the investors, you start somehow manage to give them better returns, through some subsidies or through one way or the other, the story completely changes. So same story altogether. Scenario one, they both cooperate. Your pool of taxation is $2, gets multiplied by 2.5, which is $5, gets divided equally, 2.5 here, 2.5 here, and you invested $1, you both end up with 2.5. That was our first scenario. Second scenario, Donald did not pay, only Ronald paid. So you have a total pool of $2.5, actually $1, then multiplied into 2.5, gets equally divided, 1.25 over here, 1.25 over here. Okay, so Ronald has $1.25, and Donald, who did not pay, had $1 already and got 1.25 as well. So 2.25. The flip of that again is that Ronald doesn't pay, Donald pays. So Ronald has 2.25, Donald has 1.25. And the last scenario is the same, that they don't pay anything. They are holding on to their $1. Let me know if I'm going too fast. I'm happy to repeat this game. Is everything clear until now?
Yeah, it was clear for me.
Okay, thank you. Feel free to stop me wherever, anybody. Okay. Now, if this is the same game, and if I were to map it on a table like this, these are the payoffs that I get. When they both defect, you get 1-1. This is this scenario. When Ronald defects and Donald cooperates. So this is this scenario. Ronald is defecting, Donald is cooperating. So that was this one. Ronald defect, Donald cooperates. So that is 2.25, 1.25. Then Donald defecting, Ronald cooperating is the flip of that, 1.25 and 2.25. And finally, this is the first scenario, 2.5, 2.5, where they both cooperated. Now, surprisingly over here, when you look at the game, your Nash equilibrium over here is cooperate. How? Just look at this. Is this the Nash? Let us look at defect and see if it is the Nash. If I'm asking Ronald that, would you want to move from defect to cooperate unilaterally, even if Donald is defecting? Donald will keep defecting, but Ronald, you have to decide whether you will cooperate even though Donald is defecting. What do you think, Ronald?
He will defect.
Ronald will defect?
Yeah, I mean, he will cooperate, sorry.
He'll cooperate,
Yeah.
right? Because 1.25 is better than 1, right? So even though Donald is defecting, Ronald will cooperate. Similarly, if I were to ask Donald that what if Ronald keeps defecting, but I give you the option to unilaterally cooperate, even if the other guy is defecting, Donald will also take that deal, right? Which means that defect is not a Nash equilibrium. Now let us say if cooperate is a Nash equilibrium, and that's now very easy to see. So if I ask Ronald that would you move from cooperate to defect unilaterally, that would mean from going from 2.5 to 2.25. And Ronald will not do that because 2.5 is better than 2.25, right? Similarly, if I ask Donald that would you unilaterally want to move from cooperate to defect, the other guy will keep cooperating. Would you want to move from cooperate to defect, which means come from here to here? And Donald would not want to do that. Is that clear to everybody? So which means that this is the Nash equilibrium over here. And if you compare these two games, the only thing that has changed over here is this. Instead of 1.25, it becomes 2.25. So what we've done is that we've made cooperation really lucrative. And which also means that we have created a situation where unilateral cooperation is better than mutual defection. You would rather unilaterally cooperate rather than mutually defect. Okay, so this is the final strategy, all right, for creating cooperation. Now you might ask, why is cooperation so damn important? Okay, why are we talking about cooperation so much? Because again, lots of precious resources get destroyed because at a micro level, and then that cascades into a macro level, people do not cooperate. As I said that, I did this little comparison between, the road rage incidences of India, or the, little, not major accidents, but minor incidences on the road in India versus the US, where when I was there in Ithaca, coming down from the Cornell University Hill to my house, I saw two cars bump into each other. And to my surprise, instead of fighting or yelling or punching each other, they simply exchanged insurance numbers and went their own way. And I was standing there quite startled, because in India, and especially if you're from Delhi, you would see the folks fighting with each other. Sometimes that would break into violence. I have known people who have lost as much as their eyes, one eye, in a road rage incident. So imagine how many road rage incidences like that happen on the streets of India on a daily basis. Okay, and how much of the society's time, money, health is lost in that. And that also plays out in other macro scenarios where there is a cooperation deficit in the society. If you talk about resource curse, which means countries which have a lot of resources, but still they are poor, you find the same breakdown of cooperation over there. There's a great book written by Mancur Olson called The Rise and Decline of Nations. And in that particular book, Mancur Olson says that his basic thesis is that nations which find a lot of these, macro and micro level cooperation between groups, those are the nations that see a rise. And nations which see a lot of those quibbling and quarreling, those are the nations that see a decline over time. Okay, so that's essentially what Olson is talking about. Now, Olson is also talking about one problem, and I promise you that after this we jump into that game. But this is also a very interesting problem to look at. Okay, and in Rise and Decline of Nations, he sort of ominously puts this theory forward that Number one, he says that typically in a nation, smaller groups are more effective than larger groups, all right, in getting their agenda fulfilled, in getting their objective achieved. Why? Because smaller groups are easier to coordinate. The communication is cheaper, it's easier. The communication loops get connected much easily. Also, what he says is that smaller groups which are, and he says this in the context of getting access to public goods. He says that larger groups are not as efficient in doing that, and within smaller groups, the smaller groups which are badly motivated are always, or at least for most of the times, more successful than the smaller groups which are motivated to do something beneficial to the society. And why does that happen? Number one is that in smaller groups, think of it this way. I'll show you the diagram later, but this will make it clear. Think of two groups. One is a good group, another is a bad group. Both are small groups. Okay. Now, the issue at hand is of tax policy. All right. Now, when we are talking about tax policy, let us say the badly motivated group intends to create a loophole in the tax policy, okay, for their own benefit. All right. The nicely intended group wants to close a loophole in the tax policy for the society's benefit. Okay. Who do you think would be more successful and why? Sophia, Yojin, Anshika, Bhavna, are you guys still here? All right. So,
Sorry.
Go ahead. Whoever wants to take a shot at this, which group would be more successful? Two groups.
I believe.
One. Go ahead, Aishwarya.
Sorry, the bad group will be more successful because for them it's the law and the regulations basically, where they need to find the loophole to evade tax. But for the good group, figuring out the strategies with which the bad group comes up with is going to be challenging.
Your answer is correct, but the reasoning is not there.
Okay.
Anybody else has everybody understood the situation? There are two groups. Let's imagine one is a group of lobbyists and another is a group of NGOs. Okay, two very small groups. The lobbyists, they want to create a loophole in the existing tax regime. The NGO wants to close the loopholes which are there. So the lobbyists are working for disproportionate benefits to themselves. The NGOs are working towards overall benefit of the society. Who will be more motivated? Who will be more organized? Who will be able to win?
If I can take.
Go ahead, Anshika.
So sorry, I didn't realize somebody else was speaking my message.
Go ahead.
I think
the lobbyists, but why? Okay, I think Anshika is somewhere outside. Anybody else? Okay, the lobbyists will win, but why?
I think the target of the good group is very large. They need to ensure that each and everyone should pay. But for the lobbyists, they need to target a particular population. They can use corruption or any means to convince them to evade tax.
Okay, much closer than the previous question, previous answer, but still there's something, you're hovering around the correct answer. All right, let me give this to you. Now think of it this way. If I'm the lobbyist, if I am successful, I would receive disproportionate benefits. So think of the greens that I'm showing over here as benefits. Think of the reds as costs. Okay. The benefits are concentrated on me or on the small group. Okay. Hundreds and millions of dollars. While the costs, it's a small loophole, and the cost, maybe every person is paying $10 extra because of that. Costs are dispersed across the society. So people are not even taking notice of it, that, this is a little, or even if they are, they don't think that it is worth their time and effort to organize in order to be able to reduce the $10 that they're paying. Even though in total, it might be a huge cost to the society, but it is dispersed, right? Think of the NGO, and I say this with a lot of caution because there are a lot of good lobbyists and bad NGOs as well. But this is just to understand things better. Now, let's say the well-intentioned NGO that we have over here, in order to get their, loophole closed, what will happen is that they will spend disproportionate amounts of money, time, effort in order to convince or lobby eventually to the legislators. So they pay all of the costs. So all of the costs are focused on them, concentrated on them. All of the benefits are just distributed across the society. So they have disproportionate costs and not commensurate benefits. So if you are rational players, that's why if you're working on something like this, if you're the NGO, you have to have a little bit of idealism, a little bit of irrationality for eventually the greater good, right? But if you're talking about pure rational players, if these are pure rational players, then the lobbyists would be much more highly motivated towards achieving their aim because they have concentrated benefits, right? And unfortunately for the NGO, the little benefit that everybody in the society receives also gets unnoticed because everybody, let's say, saves on $10 each every year. Nobody's going to notice. Okay. So that's, however, Mancur also says that this is not always the cardinal truth. It's not always that, the bad groups win, but typically these are the small interest groups that are badly motivated. They start getting coagulated in the society, almost like, I would phrase it as almost like fungi gets coagulated in a lake or a pond, that gradually you have more and more small, badly motivated and successful groups that sort of choke the society. And eventually you see a society which is completely in reds and only some small groups in green. And that sounds very much like the societies that we live in our modern times. Now, for Olson, these are the societies which eventually see war, they see revolutions, they see one or the other sort of a crisis and decline, and then the whole story starts again. Obviously, Olson is not saying that it's a cyclical world, things change. There are certain types of coalitions who can be nicely motivated and they could be big groups as well, and technology can make that happen for us. But there are also, technology could work both ways. So that's our more theoretical discussions. Any questions or comments you have on this before we jump into our much awaited game?
It's just when we talked about the third strategy, institutions, almost all institutions seem to have some, to some extent of institutional deficit, right?
Obviously, they are never perfect. And why are they never perfect? Because you don't have all of the rules that you have to have. You don't have, you can't bridge all of the information asymmetry that's possible. I mean, you can publish a lot of reports, but you can only hope that those reports would be read or those rankings would be read by people at large. And also, you cannot capture all of the information which is required in data all the time, right? So information asymmetry is always a problem, and it's always a work in progress. And rule compliance or rule acceptance is always a problem, and it's always a work in progress. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I got my answer. Thanks.
perfect. All right, so I think it is now time to jump into our game, and I will just take a second to do that. Perfect. I got it over here. All right, so as I said, that this game is based on a book by Robert Axelrod called. This game is called The Evolution of Trust, and Robert Axelrod's book is called something very similar. The Evolution of Cooperation is what Robert Axelrod's book is all about. Okay, and what this book started discussing, and what this game also starts discussing, is a time during the First World War where around Christmas, the two opposing parties, I think it was the Germans versus the British again, were fighting each other from the trenches, but they stopped really killing each other, despite the fact that the generals above them gave them commands to inflict human damage on them, mortal damage on them. But what they had developed was some sort of signaling that if I'm going to fire 3 shots, which means that we're going to start firing at you, so you can just hide. And imagine that when we are talking about regular societies, we are always fighting the problem of non-cooperation. Non-cooperation is the problem, and in this war, there was cooperation, and the generals and the people at the helm of the government did not want that sort of a cooperation, because people were just not dying on both the sides, and it was a war of attrition, the First World War. So weird situation to be in. Now, this is a game that I personally can derive a lot of life lessons from, but you can derive a lot of strategy lessons from. Very important from an IR perspective, and generally from a public policy perspective, and typically, quite interesting as well. Okay, so we are going to skip the story a little. Get to the actual game. All right. So this is the setup of the game. You have one choice. You have a machine in front of you, okay? And you are this person on the left with the red cap, okay? Now, you need to put in a coin inside. And when you put in a coin, the other player on the other side gets 3 coins, okay? Now, the other player can choose to play the cooperative strategy or the cheat strategy. Now, if the other player plays cheat, he or she runs away with the 3 coins, walks away with the 3 coins, and you started out with 1, you end up at 0. The other player started out at 0, ends up at 3, walks away. If they play the cooperative strategy, then the other player puts in one of the 3 coins that he or she received. You get 3 coins from the other side. And then it is your choice. You can walk away at that point of time, or you can again put in 1 coin and the other player gets 3 more coins. Okay. So the other player goes from 0 to 3, puts in 1 coin, goes to 2, then gets another coin. You put in a coin and gets 3 coins, so goes to 5, and so on and so forth. For you as well, it is increasing like that. All right. So now, the point being that you will have to decide how to play this. Just give me one. Yeah, sure. So now the aim of this game is to win. All right. So I am going to ask you, and we are going to play some warm-up rounds, and then we are going to get to the real game. So I'm going to ask you, what should we do if we want to win this game? How should we start? By cheating or cooperating? Should we put in a coin, or should we just leave with the 1 coin that we have received?
I guess cooperate. Otherwise, the game will be
Okay.
gone.
You want to start with cooperating and we can try that. Okay. So now what has happened? The other player has just decided to run away with your 1 coin that is converted into 3 coins. So you lose. But if you try again, let us say that the other player cooperates and put in a coin. They put in a coin back again. What should you do? Should you continue the game or should you stop the game and run away?
She run away with the coins.
Run away. All right, let's try that. And you're back to the prisoner's dilemma that if you both cooperated, you would, let's say, get 2-2 eventually, because you lose 2, then the other person gains the coins, it gets equalized. But if you cheat, you're at an advantage. If you're playing for winning, you're not playing for tying. If you're playing for winning, then you get 3 coins, the other player gets a -1, and then you can just walk away as the winner. Okay, now we are playing it for real for 3 to 7 rounds. All right. Now, when we are playing it for 3 to 7 rounds, we don't know whether it's 3 rounds or 7 rounds. How should we begin the game? So for those who say cooperate, please raise your hands. Okay, Yojan, Sophia, Ishwarya, cooperate or cheat?
I just want a small clarification. So if both choose to cooperate, if I put 1 coin, the other player will get 3 coin?
Yeah.
And they will again put 1, I will get 3.
3.
Okay, so it's 2-2. Okay.
It's 2-2 eventually. Okay.
I
So
need
cooperate or
a
cheat?
little bit of time to think.
Sure. You can decide. Bhavna, Anshika, cooperate or cheat? Okay, it looks like, Ishwarya, that the active voting members over here, they want to cooperate. So I'm going to go with cooperate in that case. All right. And the other person cooperated. So what should we do in the next round now? Should we cooperate again? Remember, this is 3 rounds. So if they want to win, last round, they might cheat if they want to win. Right? But they are also, again, remember the common knowledge of rationality, that I know you're rational, you know that I'm rational, I know that you know that I know that you're rational, and so on and so forth. Which means that ideally, it could have been, since a fixed number of rounds, it could have been cheat from the beginning. But now, since you both have started on a cooperative note, what should we do? Cooperate or cheat?
Since it's just 3 round, cheat.
Okay.
I have a question here. Like, is it that 3 rounds have to be played, or is it like it can be 1 round also?
If you cheat, the game ends over there. Or if he cheats, the game ends over there.
So it is
If
not
you
fixed
keep
that
cooperating,
3
then
rounds
it
have
could
to be
go
played.
until 3 to 7. Yeah.
Okay. Then
Or
cheat.
probably no. In this one, the game doesn't end. You can still cheat and keep the thing going.
Okay. In that
Yeah.
case, cooperate.
In that case, cooperate. Because you're thinking that the next round, the other person will cheat. Sophia, how about you?
Isn't it about building trust so that, like, if you want the other to cooperate, you need to cooperate as well, so that the game is played further and further. Otherwise, if I cheat, the other has distrust and doesn't want to cooperate. In that case, like, I would say, if I cooperate, my total win in the end, if the other one trusts me and cooperates as well, will be much bigger if I cheat. and the other one doesn't trust me in the end and doesn't want to play anymore. I would say
Okay,
cooperate.
that's a fair line of reasoning as well. So we have 2 for cooperate. Ishwarya, how about you?
If it's infinite, I might cooperate.
It is not infinite.
If it's just 3, then I will cheat.
Okay, so looks like we have 2 for cooperate and 1 for cheat. So I'm gonna go with cooperate over here. And the guy cooperated. Okay, but please remember we are playing to win. Okay. And we've played 2 rounds, so this could be the last one. So what do we do? Cooperate or cheat? Okay, I see Bhavna and Anshika, you are typing in the chat box. I'm sorry, I missed that. Okay, Anshika says cheat.
So if we have to cheat, we
Bhavna
should
also
not
says
put
cheat.
any coin.
Yeah, we just don't put a coin.
Then the opposite, the next other player won't get any coins as well.
Yeah.
Then we will cooperate.
Okay. So Ishwarya is for cooperate. Sophia?
I would choose because if the other cheats, I will lose as well. So since we both cooperated as well already, I would say we will cooperate again.
So you would cooperate again. Yojin?
Just a minute, I'm thinking.
Sure. You're the tiebreaker over here.
Yeah, there is this chance of not winning because it might go back to 3 and the other person might cheat.
There's always that chance.
I will go for cooperate.
Okay, cooperate it is. And let's see. And he cooperated. So I believe again cooperate. Okay, let's do that. Seems like a nice guy. Okay, we cooperated all the way till the end and we didn't win, but we got a lot of scores. Okay, but now we are dealing with a new guy over here. Okay, looks different. Remember, the way that they're dressed, the way that they look over here in this particular game could matter. Okay. Now, how do we start? We might just want to start cooperating, right? Let's start like this. And the bugger cheated on us. All right, so what do we do now? This person cheated on us once, and are we gonna sit quietly and take that affront? What are we gonna do? Sophia, what say you?
Well, hence it's an IR game, I guess, not cooperate because we don't trust them that they might cheat again and we will be losing again.
So your vote is for cheat, I believe. All right. Ishwarya, how about you?
Yeah, it's either -1 or we take the risk. So I might take the risk because I have already lost.
Okay, so you're saying cheat? Oh, you're saying cooperate.
Yeah, cooperate.
Okay, 1 for cheat, 1 for cooperate. Bhavna is for cheat as well. So, okay, Anshika is for cheat as well. So we cheat wins over here. Yojin, what would have been your vote?
Cheat.
Cheat. All right. And he would have cheated because you got a 0-0. Okay. So he would have cheated as well. Now, in our next round, I'm assuming we're all for cheating, right?
Yeah.
That's right. Looks like this guy's gonna cheat all the way. And now this is a very, innocent looking girl over here. So how should we start now? Remember, we lost the last round because in the first attempt we cooperated. Now over here, what should we do?
Cooperate.
Cooperate. Okay, I have 1 vote for cooperate. Anshika is like cheat, cheat, cheat. Okay. All right. 1 for cheat.
Objective of the game is to win the game, na? Win the game, right? Then we cheat.
Okay. So we have 2 for cheat, 1 for cooperate.
Cheat it is.
Cheat, Bhavna?
Yeah.
All right. So we have 2 for cheats, 3 for cheats. Well, cheat it is. Sophia, how would you have voted?
I think I would have cooperated.
Okay. We have a majority over here. Your party is not in par with this sort of a decision. So I'm going to cheat over here. And the poor girl lost her points. But we, on the other hand, we have an advantage. So what do we do from here on? Please also remember, game theory is not meant to make you a mean person, and we will also learn that in this game. So please don't learn the wrong lessons over here. But what do we do with this person? That lesson is soon coming. In the next 5 minutes, you would have a very important lesson. So, but for this one, what do we do? Cheat or cooperate?
Cheat.
Cheat?
Cooperate.
1 for cheat, 1 for cooperate. Okay, let's have the votes in. Quickly, guys. Sophia, cooperate or cheat?
It's because I think the other will cheat as well. And
okay, because we cheated the first time, so she's likely to cheat. Okay. Anshika says cooperate. So we have 2 for cooperate and 1 for cheat, is it? Yojan, you were for cheat or cooperate?
I was for cheat.
You were for cheat. Ishwarya was for?
Cooperate.
Okay, so 1 for cooperate and 3 for cheats. So cheat it is. Bhavna, what would you have voted like?
Probably cooperate this time.
Okay. But again, cheat wins by a slight majority over here. And this girl is probably naive over here, and she still keeps cooperating. Now, what do we do? Seems like a nice person, but on the other hand, we are winning.
Cooperate.
Cooperate, all right. Anshika says cooperate. Ishwarya says cooperate. Yojan wants to think a little. Sophia. He's still thinking.
Cooperate from my side.
Bhavna says cooperate. All right. So we have 3 cooperate. So cooperate wins. Sophia, what would you have voted as?
If the other person cheats and I cooperate, I would lose. So I would cheat as well.
Okay.
Because they might not really trust us anymore.
You would have cheated, and that would make for a rational choice. Yojan?
I would have cheated as well.
You would have cheated as well. Unfortunately, the cooperates have it, so we will cooperate. She turned out to be not so bad a person after all. Okay, maybe we have 1 more round to play with her, so either way we cooperate or we cheat, I think we win. So, do we just cooperate?
Yes.
All right. we still won. Okay. And if we had cheated with her all along, she probably would have cooperated anyway, and we could have maximized on our profits. But anyway, this shows that we have some sense of niceness about us. Okay. Now, one more person, opponent four of 5. So we have 2 more people to play with. So how do we start with this cowboy?
Cheat.
Cheat. And Ishwarya also says cheat. So we have 2 cheats. Bhavna, how about you?
Cheat.
3 cheats. So the cheats have it. Yojan?
Cheat.
4 cheats. Sophia?
Would always start with cooperation.
You would always start with cooperate. All right. Okay. So I am going to start with cheat. And the poor guy would have cooperated. Now we are at that juncture where this guy could turn the game. So now what should we do? Are we locked in cheat, or what should we do? I think we probably are.
Yeah.
Right? Because if we cooperate and he cheats, then we lose our advantage. Okay.
But on the other hand, if we cooperate in this one, and even if we lose this round, and then both of us cooperate in the next round, then
okay.
But it will go for a tie. There will be no winner.
For a tie.
There will be no winner. So to win the game, cheating is the option.
Only option left with us.
Yeah.
All right. So I am going to go by logic over here and just cheat. And he would have cheated. So correct choice. I think we are now logged into cheat with this person. He would have cheated anyway. Okay. Now finally with this detective looking girl. How do we start? Cooperate or cheat? I think I know Sophia's answer. Cooperate. Ishwarya says cheat, or Bhavna says cheat? Bhavna says cheat. All right. 1 cheat, 1 cooperate. All right. Anshika, what do you say? Yojan, how about you?
Cheat.
Cheat. So we have 2 cheats and 2 cooperates, is it? Okay. Since Anshika is not here, what should I do? I should probably I'll cast my own vote. All right, let's start by cooperating. What do you think? Start by cooperating. We cooperated. Now, next round, what should we do? Cooperate or cheat?
Cooperate.
Okay, 1 for cooperate. Bhavna?
Cooperate.
Cooperate. Sophia? Cooperate. Ishwarya?
Cheat.
Cheat. All right. The cooperates have it. She cheated. Damn. We could have had an advantage. So first time she cooperated, she sort of gauged us, and the next time she cheated. What do we do now?
Cheat so that the loss will, like, in case she cheats, no one will win or lose anything, and in case I only cheat and she cooperates, I will win anyway.
So you still say that we should cooperate, Sophia? Okay.
I know.
Did Sophia get disconnected? Probably.
Yeah.
She was saying cheat, I guess.
Okay. Bhavna?
Cheat.
Cheat. Ishwarya, you were for cheat.
Yeah.
Yojan?
Cheat.
Cheat. And I think Anshika also said cheat. Sophia said that you would probably want to cooperate again.
No, I meant cheating, because in case she cheats, we don't lose anything and she doesn't lose anything either, or wins either. And in case I cheat and she cooperates, I win and she loses. Sorry, I was thrown out of the Wi-Fi.
Sorry about that. Okay, then I think we have a consensus that we cheat. And she cooperated this time and we've leveled the game. Now, probably our last round with her, what should we do? Cooperate or cheat?
Cheat.
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 Cheat. Bhavna? Cheat.
Cheat.
Cheat. All right. Then cheat it is. I don't know why she did not. I think cheat, because it could go either way now. We're too far into the game to change the strategy. So cheat again. And she would have cheated. So that would have drawn the game for us. I'm going to cheat again. And she would have cheated. And I'm going to cheat again. And she would have cheated. All right. So remember these folks. Remember these different types of strategies. One strategy is the copycat strategy. And this particular strategy says that you start with cooperate. And after that, if the other person cooperated with me in that round, then I keep cooperating. If the other person cheated with me in the previous round, then I cheat with them in the next one. Right? So it's tit for tat strategy. All right. Remember how these people look and their strategies. Okay. This is going to be very important going further in this game. Okay. So this guy with the blue hat, this Turkish sort of a hat, is the copycat. Okay. Now, this guy with the dark blue hat is the always cheat. Okay? No matter what you do, whether you're cooperating. Remember these kids in school? No matter how nice you were to one of these, you would find this person always making, always getting into some trouble with you. You always have some of those folks. And then you have some really nice folks as well who would always cooperate. You know, whether you do good, whether you do bad, they are always going to cooperate. Okay. Then these two are a little different. This is the grudger. And this is also called the trigger strategy, which means that they will keep cooperating with you. Okay. They'll start with cooperation. They will keep cooperating with you. But if you cheat them once, they will cheat with you for the rest of their lives. Okay? They will not cooperate with you for the rest of their lives. Okay? So no matter whether you try to mend your relations by cooperating a couple of times, they'll keep cheating. Okay? What's the difference between a copycat and a grudger? Copycat, you can mend your relations with. That, let's say you cooperated, copycat cooperates. You cooperated, copycat cooperates. You cheated, copycat cheats. Then you cooperated, then the copycat cooperates again. Okay. The grudger, once you've cheated, it's all the way cheat for them, no matter what you play. Detective, it's again a peculiar one. Okay. Now, the detective has the first 4 moves fixed. The detective first cooperates, then cheats, then cooperates, then cooperates. So first 4 moves for the detective are fixed, no matter what you play. Okay. And then if you cheat in this 4th move over here, okay, when they cooperated and you cheated, then they're going to play like copycat. Okay. Which means that if you cooperated, then they will cooperate. If you cheated, then they would cheat. But if you have never cheated them in the first 4 rounds, if you just played cooperate in the first 4 rounds, they would think that you are naive because they sort of tested you. Okay, whether you are cooperating or you are a cheating sort of a person or you are a tit for tat sort of a person. Okay, so if you play tit for tat with them, then they would play copycat with you. But if you've always cooperated with them throughout, then they would always cheat with you. All right. Okay. If it gets confusing, don't worry, we'll figure this out. Okay. But remember all of these folks. Now, I want you to place your bets upon them if they are playing against each other. What happens if they are playing against each other? 10 rounds. Okay. Who is going to end up with the most number of points? So what does that mean? The always cheat will play 10 rounds with always cooperate. Always cheat will play 10 rounds with copycat. Always cheat will play 10 rounds with detective. Always cheat will play 10 rounds with grudger. Similarly, always cooperate would have already played 10 rounds with always cheat. Always cooperate would play 10 rounds with copycat. Always cooperate would play 10 rounds with the grudger and with the detective. So who do you think, who would you place your bets on? And why? You can take your time. Imagine we are playing with real money over here. I would forfeit all of your money if your player doesn't win.
I think that would be always cheat, because be it the copycat, grudger, or detective, they will lose their first round. So it automatically places the advantage on the always cheat.
Okay. All right. So Ishwarya would place her bets on always cheat. Sophia.
I'm not sure. I didn't think it to the end, but I would guess the detective, because she analyzes what the other does.
And then plays
The
accordingly.
copycat. Yes, yes.
Okay. Yojin?
All cooperate. I will think all cooperate.
All cooperate will win, you think?
Yeah.
Okay. Anshika. Anshika, are you there? Okay.
No, I would like to change my.
Okay, okay. What's your new choice? Detective says Anshika. Yojin, what's your pick?
Just a minute. Grudger. I think Grudger will be my choice.
You think Grudger will win?
Yeah.
And why?
Because basically he will cooperate every time anyone else is cooperating, and anyone defaults even once, then he will always go for cheat option.
Okay, let's find out. We have 2 votes for detective, so I'm going to select detective over here, and let's see what happens. Again, remember, detective starts with cooperate, cheat, cooperate, cooperate. Afterwards, if you ever retaliate with a cheat, it plays like a copycat. Otherwise, it plays like an always cheat. All right. First match. Let's say it's copycat versus always cheat. Always cheat is 3 points up in the first match. Why? Because copycat starts with cooperating. Okay, so loses $1 over there. Always cheat cheats as expected, and then the copycat will do what has been done to him in the previous round. So the copycat will cheat over here. Always cheat will cheat again. Copycat will again repeat that because that was his previous round. That was the other's response in the previous round. So now it goes to 0, 0, 0, 0 all the way. Okay, so copycat ends up at a disadvantage when playing against always cheat. Okay, sounds all right. Copycat versus always cooperate. So copycat starts with cooperate, always cooperate starts with cooperate. Since the always cooperate cooperated in the previous round, copycat will cooperate. So copycat is ending up with 20 and always cooperate ends up with 20. Okay, please remember these scores. In the first one, copycat was -1, always cheat was 3. In the second round where copycat played always cooperate, copycat and always cooperate tie at 20-20 each. Next round, copycat versus the grudger. Again, the same story. If you don't cheat the grudger keeps cooperating with you. All right. Grudger also starts with cooperate. Okay. Just like the copycat. Okay. So this is again 20-20-20 all over again. And copycat versus detective. First round. So detective was cooperate, cheat, cooperate, cooperate. So over here, what happened was when they first started cooperating, they got 2 each. In the next one, he cheated, so the copycat would cheat in the next one, so copycat got an advantage in the next one. But since the detective cooperated in this round, the copycat would cooperate in this other round. And now, since the detective has found out that this copycat cannot be taken for a ride because they will copy the previous move, the detective will keep cooperating. If the copycat had cooperated all the way through, the detective would have cheated. Okay. So when the copycat, so with copycat is losing a point to the always cheat and drawing with everybody else. All right. Now let's look at always cheat, what he does. So obviously gains a huge momentum over always cooperate. Okay. Basically destroys always cooperate completely. Okay. Now, with always cheat and the grudger, always cheat is at an advantage of 3 points and the grudger is -1 because the grudger starts by cooperating, and after once cheated, the grudger is always cheating. Okay, so again, always cheat is at a slight advantage over here. Versus the detective, again, the always cheat is at an advantage because this is, the detective plays cooperate, cheat, cooperate, cooperate. And if you have cheated, then they are just going to play tit for tat, right? So it's then all the way to 0. So again, always cheat has a slight bit of an advantage. And now let's see always cooperate. How do they play? Always cooperate versus grudger. Okay. They play like always cooperating, so they draw. This is clear to everybody. Always cooperate plays with the detective. Always cooperate loses because first they cooperate, they get 2 points, then they cooperate, the detective cheats, so they are at -1. Then they cooperate, they get 2 points. Then they cooperate, they get 2 points. So now, by now, the detective has found out that this person will always cooperate. So the detective will keep cheating until the end. Okay, so always cooperate is at a disadvantage over here, as she was at a disadvantage with always cheat. Okay. Grudger versus detective. The grudger wins because the grudger cooperates. Both cooperate in the first round. The detective defects in the second round, and now they keep the grudger keeps defecting. So the grudger is the winner. All right. Now, anyway, drum roll, and the winner is copycat. How did that happen? And none of us bet on the copycat, did we? How did that happen? Anybody wants to take a guess?
I think because he cooperated till like when everyone cooperated and defaulted when everyone else defaulted. So he got the coins more when he cooperated with everyone
So
and did
especially
not
look at,
lose. Yeah.
absolutely, Eugen. Does everybody get this point? Look at specifically, let's say when the always cheat plays against the grudger compared to when copycat plays against the grudger. Grudger and copycat together can make a lot of money because the copycat will only cheat you if you cheat the copycat. Okay. But when the grudger is playing against always cheat, they are both the grudger is going to lose a little bit in the first round, but always cheat is going to make 0, 0, 0, 0 until the end, right? Similarly, when the copycat is playing against the detective, okay, eventually the detective and the copycat are also, after the, in one round, the detective cheats and in one round copycat cheats. So makes it equal for the first 4 rounds. And after that, they make a lot of money together. Okay. But when the detective is playing with always cheat, the detective realizes after 4 rounds that this is always cheat. So goes to 0, 0, 0, 0 again. So copycat is great at cooperating and building a lot of wealth through that cooperation, but does not suffer when is playing against a malintentioned player. Always cheat wins heavily against naive folks such as always cooperate, but against the other, either wins by a very small margin or draws it, and usually draws it to 0. Do we all understand why the copycat wins? And usually this is where Axelrod ends his book. Then there was further research that was also Axelrod contributed to that, but in this particular book it ends at Axelrod saying that don't play too smart, don't be naive, just play the tit for tat strategy. And he says that a tit for tat strategy will invade any other strategy. What do we mean by invading any other strategy? Imagine, and he gives this example, which is very important, that imagine a community, a group of people who are always cheating with each other. Okay, so imagine a country where everybody is cheating with each other. Okay, eventually they're all playing 0, 0, 0, 0 games. Okay, now let us say 3 copycats enter that country together. Okay, now whenever they're playing against an always cheat, after the initial round they would always end up at 0. Okay, whenever they're playing with each other, there are 3 copycats, right? So let's say the 3 people on the screen, let's say it's Aishwarya, Sophia, and myself. Okay, we are the copycats and we enter this country where everybody is cheating. So everybody is effectively at 0 when they play with each other. When they play with us, first round we lose individually, but from the next round onwards, when we play with them, we cheat, they cheat, it's 0. But when we play with each other, we're able to make money, right? We're able to do business. Okay, so eventually what's going to happen is that we will end up as the wealthiest people in town, right? Because everybody else remains 0. And gradually people will understand the strategy and others will drop their always cheat strategy and adopt ours, right? So in that way, the copycat strategy invades all of the other strategies, right? That is the fundamental lesson over here. But now there's one nuance to it. It is only when the 3 of us are going together in that, and the 3 of us have some sort of a connection and exchange with each other, that the strategy is successful. Imagine that we don't go to that country together, we go one by one. Okay, if we go one by one, we are going to lose because I go there, let's say first, and everybody is cheating over there. It's all 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Okay, I go over there and I first get a -1 because that's my first interaction, and then I'm stuck at 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 with them for the rest of my life. So my strategy has not invaded their strategy. Then you come in over there and you are also stuck in that sort of a strategy, and so is Sophia. All right. But the condition is that we need to go together and we need to have some sort of an interaction and business to do with each other. Even if it is occasional, even if it is minimal, we will still be able to invade their strategy. Right? Does that make sense, everybody? Right? So, and in many ways, fellowships like these, they are also sort of ways, and this is our plugin for the fellowship, that these are also ways to invade those strategies where you could get people who can cooperate with each other, okay, and who are also wise enough to cooperate with people who would cooperate with them, but not cooperate with people who would not cooperate, and eventually this sort of a nice equilibrium can emerge. So you're not naive, but you're also very nice when the other person can be very nice to you. So, and even you don't have to transact a lot of business, but even if you do a little to each other, eventually you would be at a much greater comparative advantage. Okay, so that's the idea over here. Now, so that is the end of Robert Axelrod's book. Let me do a time check, because there's some bit of additional information which is remaining. So that's usually a nuance. Okay, we have half an hour or slightly less than 20 minutes with us, so we can cover the rest of it. Okay. Now, if they were playing many more rounds, okay, and the new rules were this, that in every round that you play, okay, the person with the lowest scores, and there are going to be multiple of these people, okay, multiple copycats, multiple always cooperate, multiple always defect. The sort of people who end up with the least amount of points, 5 members of their population get deleted. So this is sort of evolution. This is sort of, this really, it's misplaced Darwinianism. Darwin doesn't really talk about evolution in this way, but this is really the survival of the fittest, that the least fit would lose 5 members of their population. All right. So let's see how it goes over here. Okay. So this is a society where majority of the people are always cooperating. In Indian mythology, you could call it the Satyug, where majority of the people are nice and well-intentioned. Okay, and then there are 5 copycats, and then there are 5 always cheats. So always cheats, copycats 5, always cooperate 15, and we are going to play one round now. Whom do we have our bets on? First round, who wins? No grudger, no detective here.
Always cheat.
Okay. Always cheat. All right. Let's see. Always cheat. So we will. And you're correct. Always cheat. They get the most number of points. Always cooperate. They get, because first round, right? So a copycat would have played nice. So we eliminate 5 of these poor always cooperate. And we reproduce the 5 of the winners. So we reproduce 5 always cheat. Okay. So now we have 10 always cheats, 10 always cooperate, and 5 copycats. We will play another round and let's see who wins. Again, always cheats, they win. All right. They end up with the most points over here. So we eliminate the bottom 5 and reproduce more of these always cheats. Think of, in mythology, how they explain how the world has evolved, right? That you're coming from the Satyug to the Kaliyug in many ways, right? We play another round, and again, the always cheats, they win, because they are making a lot of they're making a killing against always cooperate until now. And we eliminate all of the always cooperate. But now things start changing. Now things start taking a turn where you only have two types of players in the game. You have the copycats, only 5 of them, and always cheats, about 20 of them. And what's happening over here? The copycats, they make a lot more money than always cheats, because when the always cheats are playing with each other, if an always cheat plays with an always cheat, it's a 0. And when the copycat plays with a copycat, they earn a lot of money together, right? So now we eliminate 5 of the always cheats and we reproduce 5 copycats, and we play this again. And again, the copycats win, and we eliminate the 5 always cheats and we reproduce the copycats, and we do that again. And again, the copycats win, and again, there are more copycats. And again, there are more copycats, till we have a world where everybody is a copycat, right? So what has happened again? The tit for tat strategy has invaded all of the other strategies, right? Okay. If we bring in the grudger and the detective, what happens? We start the evolution process. And again, the copycats win. Right? And we've already tested this out in our previous games. Okay. So no matter who else is there, the copycats always win. There's a slight bit of a problem over here. Okay. So the slight bit of problem is this, that you have one copycat, okay, and one always cooperate. Let me see. Now, if over here I reduce the number of rounds, okay, if I reduce the number of rounds in the game to, let's say, 3, and see what's happening. If we have low number of rounds, again, you know, if you're working on a very small time horizon, which means that you're not playing infinite games, what happens is that always cheat becomes the dominant strategy when you are not playing a game which is framed on a longer time horizon. Okay. Similarly, if okay, if I had increased the number of rounds, then can we just do that once? Let me just see. Okay, I'll just go with this very. Okay, I can just skip to the other one. Yeah. All right, yeah, I will increase the number of rounds and I will start this. And the copycats will. All right, okay. So we continue. And the other thing is that if I make cooperation less lucrative, okay, so let's say the cooperate strategy, instead of getting me 2-2, or yeah, instead of getting me 2-2, if the cooperate strategy was giving me just 1-1 each, okay, and then if I start the game, what happens? Always cheat wins. Right? You remember we discussed that if you make cooperation really, really lucrative, Nash equilibrium is cooperate, but if cooperation becomes minimally lucrative, or the degree of that being lucrative goes down, then you favor the always cheats, because that becomes a Nash equilibrium. But if I were to increase the cooperation over here quite a bit, then the always cooperate wins, right? Because now cooperation is just a lot more lucrative than defecting. Okay, the new Nash equilibrium, you would rather want to cooperate than defect in such a game. Okay. So essentially what we are trying to say over here is that there are a number of things that define the structure of a game or that define the outcome of a particular game. Number one are the payoffs. Okay. So how much do you get for each strategy? Number two is the time horizon of each strategy. Okay. So are we talking about a 1-round game? Are we talking about a 10-round or a 20-round game? And there's one more thing, which is miscommunication, all right, or mistakes. This is the last bit. What if, you were going to cooperate, you were both copycats, okay? You were going to cooperate, okay? And when the second time, when you were reciprocating, because you're a copycat, you saw cooperation in the first round, second round, you tripped, you slipped by accident, right? Then the other person is going to think that, okay, you cheated, so the other person is going to cheat. Okay, and the other person cooperated and you're a copycat, so you are going to cooperate. So now you're going to be stuck in this thing where you cooperate, he cheats. Then since he cheated, you cooperate, and you are going to be stuck in this sort of a thing. Alternatively cheating and cooperating with each other. So how do you deal with mistakes? And this is the whole deal about communication. This is the whole deal about information symmetry, that you reduce miscommunication as much as possible. And the other thing is that you become a copy kitten. Okay. So there's a simpleton, and this bit I always get confused by as to what the random monkey does and what does the simpleton do. But the final lesson is that you can be a copy kitten. What that means is that you're a copycat, but you only cheat back after you've been cheated twice in a row. I remember Sophia once said that, okay, let us try and cooperate one more time and see, this was in the initial rounds. Let us cooperate twice and let's see what this person does. And then we can do it. It's very similar than that, that if you're the copy kitten, you give one more chance, that's sort of an allowance that the other person might have cheated because of some lack of communication, because of some mistake. And if you give that sort of a leeway to the other and then play copycat, that is a much more effective strategy. Okay. And essentially, I'm not going into the rest of it because you can just, play around with it yourself. But what you would see is that, okay, just a second, that typically when you have this game, copy kittens, when there is a little bit of a, okay, over here, when you see miscommunication increasing, you see the chances of miscommunication increasing, you will see the always cheat winning. Okay, if there's a lot of miscommunication, just like if there are not many rounds in a game, always cheat will win. Similarly, or if cooperation is not lucrative, always cheat will win. Similarly, if there's a lot of miscommunication in the game, always cheat will win. However, if there's just a little miscommunication in the game, not too much, just a little miscommunication in the game, you would find that between copycats and copy kittens tend to deal with it a lot better than the copycats, right? So which means that if we are talking about which strategy invades all of the other strategies the best, which is also called the evolutionarily stable strategy, typically it is copy kitten. But you always, when you're planning a strategy or when you're looking at the game, the things that you need to keep in mind is, number one, what are the payoffs? Number two, what types of players are there and what are their strategies? Are these copycats I'm playing against? Are these copy kittens I'm playing against? Are these always cooperate or always defect or the grudges that I'm playing against? So that's the second thing you need to keep in mind. The third thing you need to keep in mind is, how many rounds. The first one we talked about, what's the payoff. The second is who are the players. The third is how many rounds. Okay. The fourth is what's the level of miscommunication that we can have in this particular game. So in a world which is low on communication and where different signals from different parties could mean different things, okay, you will have the always cheats win. And again, if you want the institution to function well, you need to reduce miscommunication as much as possible. You need to reduce the miscommunication, increase the time horizon as much as possible, increase the payoff for cooperation as much as possible. Okay, so that's the game. At the end, you will get a sandbox in which you can play around with the numbers. You can play around with the level of miscommunication. So you could play around with the payoffs over here. You could play with the number of rounds. You could play with some of the other rules, miscommunication, etc. And literally, when you're in a situation where you're trying to simulate a particular strategy, you could just key in the situation over here, and this might give you a fair sense of what the evolutionarily stable strategy should be. So this was just to give you a broad sense of, when we are talking about strategies, thumb rules don't work so much. If you're going by the always cooperate strategy, maybe morally it is right, but strategically it may not be the best one. Maybe you're going with the always cheat strategy. It might work for some instances, but not for the others. A lot of times copycat would work. Many a times, even more than that, copy kitten would work. But there's no fixed answer. You need to look at the payoffs. You need to look at the number of rounds. You need to look at how many are the different players. And you need to look at what are the other rules which are there in the system. So miscommunication, etc., etc. So those are the things that you typically need to keep in mind when you're strategizing and when you're also formulating policies. So this applies to international relations as much as public policy. But what are your thoughts? What are your questions? Happy to take them now.
This was definitely an interesting game. My question is, how relevant will this be when it comes to applying it to real-time, negotiations or any strategies two parties, engage in, as we are, beings of belief and subjective experiences. So how relevant will this be?
Absolutely. And I would think quite relevant, because when you look at one-on-one negotiations, you can, at the beginning, find out how the other player's record of playing is. That are they always cheating? Are they always cooperating? What they're like? Then you could probably, to be safe, assume that if it is a one-round negotiation, then you both are probably going to cheat. Then you need to put your minds behind the fact that, okay, how do we ensure that this negotiation does not end up in a prisoner's dilemma? So what we should do is that, number one, let us communicate as much as possible, and let us put in place certain mechanisms so that there is a low degree of error in communication. So there's low miscommunication really over there. Number two, what we must do is we must increase the number of rounds. Let us phase it into many stages of negotiations. Number three, are we negotiating for something which is really, really lucrative? Shall we, or are we negotiating for benefits which are really, really small? Okay. The problem that arises a lot of times is that your sense of the payoffs and the other person's sense of the payoffs could be different. Perspective on payoffs could be different. Perspective on timelines. You might think that you're in an infinite game. The other person might think that you're in a short-term game with each other. You might think that the benefits over here are really, really large. The other person might think the benefits are really, really small. So their perspective taking also comes into play, that for the other person, how many rounds does the other person think? Does the person think it's a short-term game versus a long-term game? Does the other person think that it is a high-stake game or a low-stake game? How has been the communication pattern of this person? So all of these things, they come into play, and just makes you just a lot better negotiator. And if you're in a position where two parties are negotiating and you have to structure the negotiation, then you can keep some of these things in mind to ensure that the Nash equilibrium is a positive, is a efficient one and not an inefficient one. So yeah. All right. So if there are any other questions, we can discuss. Otherwise, I hope this was useful. I hope it added some nuance to the way that we think about strategy typically, and about international relations and public policy. And from the next class onwards, we jump into the backbone of this course. So this was the foundation, where we covered systems thinking and game theory. This was the foundation. The next few classes, we're going to do comparative public administration. That's sort of the backbone of what we are learning in this course. All right. So that's going to be methodological. We'll be working with some case studies. I'll be giving you a very simple software to work with and to run some data on. And that is really learning the whole methodology of comparison. So I'll see you for the next class. Until then, goodbye. Take care. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.